everyone, welcome to Chris Turner Mysteries and Cryptids. Cryptids and mysteries and waffle, that should be on the end. Today I want to talk a little bit about something that, one of my gripes, and that is this sort of negative, skeptical approach, which seems to be sometimes just for the hell of it, just for the sake of it. I want to talk about how what we're seeing is not necessarily, how they say what we're seeing is not necessary to be believed. It's a psychological phenomena, Bigfoot, don't you know? So, whilst yes, that can be true, in some cases, you know, what you think you saw, you might not necessarily have seen, but there's no way it's true in all the cases. It's just silly that people world over are experiencing and seeing and describing exactly the same thing. Some, in probably a large percentage of those, particularly here in the UK, have absolutely no knowledge of Bigfoot whatsoever. And in fact, in most cases, it's described as a hairy man or a gorilla a lot of the times. And of course, for those of you not from the UK, we don't have gorillas here in the UK. We have some big hairy men, for sure. A lot of the forums on Facebook you can learn a lot from, particularly the skeptical forums, but a lot of those forums, you need a thick skin in them. Although you can learn from them, there are certain groups that are just so negative. I really sometimes, I've got to the point now where, I've said it before, I don't understand I'm sure some of these groups started off with good intentions, but to me, they seem to have just sort of lost the way. The group seems to have no function anymore other than to sort of bully and bash people constantly. And as a witness, which I'm not, that must be incredibly difficult and frustrating to deal with. So, you know, I follow a lot of people that are very open-minded, and that's certainly my approach to alternative media in general. Some might say I'm a little too open-minded, but I don't believe that's true. We're all educated, or most of us are educated in the mainstream, raised in the mainstream. So that side of the coin, if you like, I'm very familiar with how that works. 42 years of it, you kind of get a good grasp on exactly what's going on. So once you dip your toe into alternative media, be it Bigfoot, cryptids, aliens, conspiracies, whatever that might be, chemtrailing, geoengineering, assassinations, all that kind of stuff, you will immediately be put into that group. And as it happens, they're usually right. People with a tendency to believe in Bigfoot generally are quite open-minded people, and some might say too open-minded. Who knows? We're all different. We're all individuals, and we all have our own experiences that sort of shape our beliefs and guide us down certain paths. So I wanted to ask a couple of people that I respect and I follow their channels. So I asked a couple of guys on YouTube who I follow exactly what they thought and how they answer the skeptics' response to, well, what you saw, you either imagined, or it's a cultural phenomenon, or you're crazy. So let's hear what they said.
Greetings, peeps, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Michael Merchant. The question: if Sasquatch is not real, how do you explain the consistencies in the reports? First, let's underscore the consistencies that I'm referring to. Hairy hominoids, bipedal, heavily muscled, often referred to as a wrestler on steroids, an Arnold Schwarzenegger covered in fur. Almost no neck, massive broad shoulders, just a head sitting on broad shoulders, no neck. Arms longer than a human, often down below their knees or in that area. Reported to do tree knocking, rock knocking, boulder smashing. Frequently will throw sticks or pebbles or rocks at observers. Often observed rocking back and forth as if agitated at the human witnesses. These consistencies aren't localized to a region, they are worldwide. The Yowie in Australia is very similar to the North American Sasquatch. The easy answer would be, they mean that Sasquatch is real. Quite a few people refuse to accept that. Maybe these people have been mass hypnotized by the MIBs to all hallucinate about the same thing. It's not as if they're reporting unicorns and dragons and flying lions, Pegasuses, flying horses. Tens of thousands of people for tens of thousands of years, as far back as there is written history and beyond, these consistencies abound. Maybe it's the collective unconscious, ancient genetic memory when there was many hominoids, bipedal hominoids roaming about the landscape. Maybe that's where the hallucination is birthed from. Maybe people are just copying each other. Well, he saw a furry hominoid. That's what I'm going to make up. Maybe everybody's confusing bears. Yeah, that bear looked an awful lot like a Neanderthal ape man. Oh, I saw that too. A shared confusion as to what they are observing. Maybe because it's steeped in the consciousness from ancient times. We've been having these reports. So people just see that. Their mind fabricates it. Maybe aliens have planted these as cover memories. You're not seeing an alien. No, you're seeing an ape man. Yes, I'm an ape man. That's what you're seeing. Perhaps there's a mini projector in there with the Sasquatch. It just projects it on the inside of your eyelids, the inside of your eyeball. Everybody's got it. People just want to be part of a group, part of the crowd. Well, if Jimmy Bob saw ape man, that's what I'm going to say I saw. An ape man. Yeah, he's an ape man. I'm an ape man. Everybody's an ape man. Ape man sightings across the continent. Everybody seeing the same thing? It's a conspiracy by the secret shadow government to keep us occupied so we don't know that they're feeding us GMO wheat. Yeah, forget about the corn. Everybody's seen an ape man. There is no global warming. You saw an ape man. Of course, a few people are seeing dogmen, werewolves. Maybe they're hallucinating that too. Mass group hypnosis carried out by the MIBs, the aliens, the secret shadow government to corrupt our minds and blind us to the truth of the reptilian, draconian, alien takeover. It's a conspiracy, man. Big conspiracy. Sasquatch is not real, it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy to infect our minds. It's got to be anything other than Sasquatch is real, because we all know that Bigfoot's not real.
Hey there, Chris Noel here. It seems to me that there's a certain brand of skeptic who are fond of writing Sasquatch off as a mere figment of our imagination. Oh, they wrap this evasion up in fancy concepts, such as the collective unconscious, according to which our dreams and fantasies tend to repeat certain ancient image patterns stemming from deep psychological need and the human condition itself. For example, the shadow archetype represents our dark side, of which we are often unaware, but to which it's important to relate and to reconcile. Archetypes are projections of our imagination. A subset of the shadow archetype is the monster archetype, the fearsome other, the superhuman figure in whose presence we can both transcend our limited selves and awaken our own buried gifts and powers. But think of this. If such figures were hardwired into us and therefore explained away Sasquatch encounters and sightings, wouldn't we expect to hear of such experiences evenly spread across the world? For example, as Rio, Utah Sasquatch, has pointed out, there is no such historical record in Japan, even though they are famous for a cultural tradition of monsters. They have plenty of mountain wilderness too, but no sightings. Why? There are no Sasquatch in Japan. You know where else people don't claim to see the species? Africa. Even though this continent doesn't lack for forest either. In contrast, North America has amassed tens of thousands of sightings, stretching over many hundreds of years, from native groups through European conquest, and then daily through yesterday evening. Footprints from British Columbia to Florida share a tight cluster of morphological characteristics, and when track casts are graphed for size, they distribute in exactly the same way as with any population of living creatures. People in the United Kingdom, too, have seen this primate, or similar versions of it, on quite a regular basis over time. And the same goes for Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Russia, China, Tibet, Indonesia, Sumatra, and Australia. I think that a particularly apt example in mainstream culture of our collective blindness to the very literal marvels existing in our forests can be found in this whole superhero craze.
Why do we spend millions of dollars watching movies that seem to endlessly recycle the same old characters, mighty heroes, and fearsome villains? Well, it's a long, long story and primordial, this yearning to identify with something greater than ourselves, a force of nature who is also recognizably akin to us. A marriage of human and non-human, a hybrid cross that overcomes our separation from the earth. So strong is our desire to bridge the gap, to recover ancient memory, to shatter and outgrow the marvels of technology that shackle us, to find ourselves all over again, the secret we left behind. In our perpetual scrambling for figures to worship, we choose to make up story after story after story, pale approximations of what we really seek. We breathlessly revisit old frameworks in search of satisfaction, starving for transcendence, but never quite getting there, the horizon always receding before us. Virtual reality, alternative realities, invented fictions. This strange collective yearning for that which already exists, as if it did not.
So I'm sure, like me, you think that that's a pretty logical response. I think a lot of the time, the majority of skeptics are not witnesses, which is a huge factor in how they shape their beliefs. As I say, I've decided to come away from a lot of those groups because I think I've learned now what I need to know, and that is, yes, you do need to be certainly much more open-minded in in these circles, but you also need to be very, very discerning, and don't make sort of snap decisions about what it is that you've seen, filmed. Even sometimes when you're writing a blog, or you're commenting on certain posts, you know, we have this tendency to jump in. I mean, Facebook sort of manipulates you in that way. It's almost like everything needs to be done just there and then. This sort of rushed response that can often get us in trouble, and you can often say the wrong thing, and you know, but that doesn't matter for the most part, unless you know, we're all going to be wrong. I'm going to be wrong. I'm sure that I am wrong about a lot of things, and that's why, if you look at my early videos, I've sort of not done a U-turn on things. I'm just very cautious about what I say and what I think, and those two things, I don't censor myself. I usually say what I think, and if you're not doing that, don't let people stop you from doing that. Obviously there are certain circumstances. Don't run around the schoolyard shouting Bigfoot's there, but for the most part, if you're in these groups and you're taking a bashing and you're not really getting any benefit from these groups, just get out, walk away from them. They serve the sort of culture, they serve this movement sort of no purpose. I mean, we're talking about a select few people here. We're not, you know, skeptics, cool. You know, you know, I've been brought down to earth with a bang many times by a skeptic with you know, who's more intelligent than I am, and who's more worldly wise than I am in certain fields, particularly science. So, and that's cool. There's no harm in taking a beating, but come back wiser, come back stronger, and you know, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to talk about next is I'm going to ask again if anyone wants to come on board with this. The weather's getting better, and I'm going to be starting to film the sequel to Elusive, and I'm filming the last bits of Elusive, hopefully in 10 days' time in Scotland. So I'm looking for someone to come on board and split everything. Just come on board financially, and you know, let's get this series on Netflix. Let's even get it on Amazon. Let's get it made. A lot of us don't like finding Bigfoot. More, you know, a lot of people moan about a lot of the things on YouTube. You know, let's do something together, and let's see what we can do together, and let's make British Cryptids the online series and Elusive the sequel. Let's make it as good as it can be, and let's look into these theories about these remote places, and hopefully, you know, with the British Cryptids series, let's look at, you know, I've been offered to go to Germany and look into the werewolf phenomenon there, or the dogman phenomena, however you want to term that. That would be amazing to do that, to investigate that in Germany. There's a lot of roots with the werewolf in Germany, a lot of interesting, creepy as hell stories coming out of there. And if you don't know, Germany is a beautiful place, and the forestry, the forest and the land over there. I mean, most places dwarf the UK in regards to woodland anyway, but Germany is certainly one of those places. It's just beautiful, and there's just masses of open forest there, remote forest that we can get into. And again, no one's looking at it. Now, yes, there's a lot to do in Britain, but I'm just talking about it. It's exciting to get there, and if we get this online series going, someone comes on board, you know, and helps make the show, wants to present it, wants to help research it, and you know, let's do it. Let's see what we can do. If you're interested, get in touch with me. My email is christurnervfx@gmail.com. I'll talk you through the finance side of it, what's involved, a lot of travelling, you know, lots of filming, fun, camping. So let's do it. Give me a shout. Anyway, end of waffle. I'll speak to you soon.